And there's lots of resources out there for you. So we've talked about, in my opinion, that physical health and the keys to nutrition and exercising will certainly help any goal that you have. Sorry. And help you improve your well-being just through those couple exercises. But in some cases, even people who participate in those activities do sometimes feel overwhelming stress or a depletion in their mental or an emotional state. And again, I would hate to contradict what some people in the health professions would say, but in my feeling, the coping strategies plays quite a bit, or not having coping strategies plays quite a bit of young adults being taken over by thoughts that are harmful to their well-being. And so the idea of coping comes up quite a bit. And how is it that you react to certain situations? How is it that you cope with an unhealthy relationship or a relationship that isn't going the way you wanted to or supportive enough for you? How is it that you cope with one of those friendships or relationships ending? How is it you cope when you're dealt a bad blow, either through a mark that you got back that wasn't as high as you wanted, through being asked or being told something that you didn't expect, and so you're receiving things from how, if there's a death in the family, how well are you coping with that? Or how well are you coping with just thoughts that you might not even be real? And so when we talk about coping, a lot of ideas end up going, and especially if you end up going to speak to a counselor about your stress or anxiety, many of the first chances that they give you is in the realm of cognitive behavioral therapy, or the term CBT as a way. And so this is a form of psychotherapy that was originally designed to treat depression, but now it's used quite widely in treatment of a whole range of stress situations. And what it does is it works for the patient and the counselor to solve current problems and change unhelpful thinking and unhelpful behaviors. So the idea of cognitive behavioral therapy is to identify which current problems exist and why they're problems and how to get through those. And so I want to talk to you about three main areas that they talk about. And the first is the idea of relaxation. So relaxation is something that we could all use, and it's really just that resetting of things. So what do we do when we're faced with a situation that's being overwhelming? Now, some people, and this is where meditation comes in, are able to retreat back and being able to clear your thoughts. Other people allow themselves to work up quite a bit over the issue, and it ends up being quite harmful to how things should be overcome. So relaxing is the first one, or getting yourself into that state where you're able to think purposefully about what it is that's causing you stress and decharge the situation. And that might include things like taking some time for yourself, doing a hobby that you've particularly enjoyed in the past. It might be sitting down or going for a walk in nature is also something that's really relaxing. It could be de-stressing by playing a sport or getting your exercise in, or even relaxing with a book or listening to some music. The next one I wanted to talk about was realistic thinking and how that helps, or how counselors or people who deal with cognitive behavioral therapy break down what it is a person's thinking. And so there are a number of ways that this can come in, but the idea that your thinking is often not something that's realistic or something that you can control. And so you take your bad thoughts and start addressing it into a number of two ways. One, is this something that's in my control? is usually a good indication of, can I stop these thoughts from happening, or am I going to have to cope with them? If it's in your control, change what you're doing. If it's out of your control, you need to find a coping strategy to be able to deal with whatever it is that you're working with. And then the next bit about the realistic thinking is changing those thoughts. So I'm going to give an example of someone who's anxious about going to a party. They're not good in social situations, and so they're worried about the anxiety of going into a social situation. So the first thing I would suggest is this realistic thinking? Of course it is. This isn't meant to tell you your feelings are wrong. Lots of people deal with anxiety, but then the idea is changing the way you're thinking about it. So instead of, I don't want to go, I'm not going to know anybody, I'm going to be left out or isolated, or I'm not going to like myself, or people will be judging me, changing the way that you think and say, there's probably other people at this party that think the same way I do. Nobody's going to be judging me as much as I'm judging them, so we're all on an even keel. And those types of realistic thinking is something that's important, and I suggest that you get into some of these to be able to see what's helpful for you. The next one, I think, is facing fears, and that's another cognitive behavioral therapy that people do, and it's okay. It's okay to have some fears in your life. But it's sometimes important that you're going to have to overcome those feelings as well. And so if it's getting on a plane or a fear of spiders, putting yourself in a situation that you're able to control those fears in a situation that's within your control goes a long way to be helping out you being able to address those in the future. And so maybe it is social anxiety at a party. I would suggest that going to a smaller party on purpose to see what it's like, or going with the idea that you're going to stay for half an hour and then give yourself the option to leave after that. So there are ways that you can face fears in a controlled way so that you're able to see what those things are. Now I'm going to leave you with one last way to cope, and there's a great, the Anxiety BC, British Columbia organization, put out an excellent app called Mind Shift. It's called Mind Shift, if you look for it in the Google or the Apple store. And it's a great way, if you do have some feelings or coping problems, that you can get into the app. It gives you a number of different tools to work your way through it. You can do a thought record, you can change your way of thinking. There's chill out tools, so music that you can play to recharge or relax yourself, and active steps that you can take to get over that situation. So all in all, just a little bit of a recap. It's important for students to be able to see the holistic side of well-being, and that physical well-being is just one part of those. Your social well-being, financial well-being, your intellectual well-being, all of those holistic wheel of wellness type things come into play with your overall well-being. And stress, we are stressed every single step of the day, right from when we wake up to having a morning coffee to having some fast food at lunchtime. All of those things are stressors on the body and the mind, and play an interrelated role. Some of these can be overcome, and I think the top 3 is setting some time to get the proper nutrition into your body, an often overlooked area. Exercise and planning that into your time, whether it's something more formal or less formal or something you can do inside your own room. And meditation is also important, getting the mind right. And I would say that the coping, when things go wrong, are you able to cope with the situation at hand? And that will play a large role in being able to get yourself on the path to wellness and to reduce the impact that stress has on your student life. So I'm going to leave it there. The one thing I did notice was that my earphones have been in my ears but not plugged into my phone when I've been recording this. So I hope the sound works out well, and I'm going to press stop and see what happens. All right. Thank you so much.